A great pleasure and an honor to introduce our keynote speaker this morning, Stephen M.R. Covey. Stephen and I have known each other for about 2 years, been collaborating for about 2 years on some content, some thought leadership, some research. And how many people not only know Stephen's work, but also Stephen's dad's work, right? A legendary family. And I can't think of, in a world that needs more trust, it needs more collaboration, needs more teamwork, needs more innovation, needs more accelerated collaboration and communication and trust. We couldn't have a better opening keynote here today than the legendary Stephen M.R. Covey, a globally recognized thought leader, inspiring high-performance companies, teams, and individuals, recognized by the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, if that matters. I think it does, as a #1 best-selling author with his book, The Speed of Trust. Today's book that you'll receive, Inspiring Trust, that book will be in every airport in the modern world, around the world. And please welcome our good friend, Stephen M.R. Covey. Great to see you, Stephen.
Thank you, Hunter.
Thanks for making it.
Fantastic to be with you. Okay. Yeah. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
And let me just say this about Hunter and HMG Strategy. For me, this is absolutely a thrill to be here with you, partnered with HMG Strategy and with Hunter, who's an extraordinary thought leader in his own right and connector, who brings not only the technology perspective as he brings people together, but I love that he's also bringing the leadership perspective. And the combination of the two is what's powerful, because we need both the technology and we also need the trust. And we need the leadership. And so that's what makes this special, is that we learn from each other and we apply this both from a technology standpoint and from a leadership standpoint. And that will be my focus today. I love being in Dallas. I had worked here in the mid-'80s, lived here a couple of years. My wife and I, our first child was born here. And so this is an important part of my life. And Mark, I also say all y'all too, so I can do it as well. And in fact, I was with Trammell Crow Company that is part of CBRE. Yeah, there you go, Pat. And that was in the mid-'80s, in the heyday of real estate development, and when a lot of the Dallas skyline was being built. Trammell Crow was the builder building it. And Trammell Crow, the person, was such a remarkable leader, and he was such a good person that everyone liked him. And it was estimated that there was at least 1,000 people and companies that claimed to be his first tenant. And there was an article in Fortune that said, Trammell Crow, he succeeds because you want him to. And it's really quite, every time I come back to Dallas, I'm just reminded of this extraordinary place and people and culture, and so real thrilled to be here with you today. I'm going to talk about leadership. And I'm going to talk especially about the kind of leadership I think is needed today. Hunter mentioned my book. HMG sprung for the book for everyone here in the room. So I told because the book just came out. Yeah, let's hear it for him. The book just came out this week on Tuesday. And so I told my publisher, hey, we sold 100. Thanks to Hunter. And same thing in New York. So we're off to a good start if nothing else happens. So I'm really honored to talk about this today because this is so relevant for our changing world. Let me give a metaphor as I begin. This is Death Valley, California. Hottest place on earth. It's not only hot, it's dry. The average rainfall in a year is about an inch. There was a 40-month period in which only half an inch of rain fell. So because it's so hot and so dry, nothing grows here. Well, in the winter of 2004, for some unexplained reason, 6 inches of rain fell within just a few days. Well, a couple months later, in the spring, here's what it looked like. Wildflowers popped up and carpeted the entire valley. Turns out it wasn't dead after all. As Sir Kenneth Robinson said, maybe we should call it Dormant Valley, not Death Valley, because the seeds were there all along. The seeds just needed the right conditions for them to grow, to flourish, to blossom. In a sense, people are like this. The seeds of greatness, the potential, the talent, the capabilities, the greatness, it's there. It just needs the right conditions for it to grow. Our job as a leader today is to see ourselves more as gardeners than as mechanics. It's more an organic model than a mechanistic model. And we're trying to create the right conditions for the seeds to grow. See, because the power is in the seed, the life is in the seed, and the power is in the people. Our job as leaders, as IT leaders, as tech leaders, business leaders, is to unleash that potential, that greatness, that talent that exists in our teams, in our people. But we can't do that with the way we've been leading in the past. We need a new way to lead in this new world. And I call it trust and inspire. Now here's the interesting thing. We all know how everything is changing around us. I like to put it this way. The world has changed, but our style of leadership has not. Or at least has not kept pace with this changing world. Too many of us are still operating with an antiquated, dated leadership style that's kind of a relic of the industrial age that we've just become better at. More advanced, more sophisticated, what I call an enlightened command and control. But the paradigm of how we view people and how we view leadership is just too limited and limiting. And so we need to shift, especially because of the changes that are hitting us today and the implications of those changes. Well, here's some of the changes. I call these the 5 emerging forces of change. The nature of the world has changed through technology. The pace of change, the amount of change, the type of change, disruptive technologies, changing everything. Today it's impossible to be a know-it-all because human knowledge doubles every 12 hours. So today we need to be a learn-it-all. And this is just a new world through technology. And you know this well. This is your world. But also, the nature of work itself has changed. We're not in the industrial age anymore. We're in the knowledge worker age. We're in the age of collaboration, of interdependence, of partnering, and teaming. It's a different world. And so work itself has changed. Even traditional industrial, manufacturing work has far more a service-oriented bent to it and a knowledge bent to it. So it's a different world of work. But also the nature of the workplace has changed. And this has really accelerated since the pandemic, right? Work from home, work from anywhere, remote work, hybrid work, intentionally flexible work, combinations of all of the above is the new norm. And none of this, the final chapter has not been written on this. We're in the midst of it. But it's changing in front of our eyes. The nature of the workforce has changed. We have more diversity than ever before, with as many as 5 generations with completely different expectations. And to think we can manage in the way we have in the past with the younger generations, it's not going to work. They have a different approach towards this. And finally, the nature of choice has changed. We've gone from what we might call multiple choice to infinite choice. People have options and choices. That's why there's this great resignation and a great reshuffling or great rethinking, lots of different ways to describe it, where people are saying, you know what, I can choose. I have options and choices that maybe they didn't have before with all these forces converging at once. So the implications of all this change is that we need to change how we're leading to be relevant. Because you look at these changes, it puts a premium on 2 key things for any organization. I call these the 2 epic imperatives of our time that any organization needs to be focused on today because of these changes. And the first is the need to create a high trust culture that can attract, retain, engage, and inspire the best people and bring out the best in people. So it's all about culture, not just any culture, a high trust culture that inspires. Why? So we can win the war for talent. As Hunter talked about, as this whole conference is about, the summit, win the war for talent. Attract, retain, engage, and inspire the best people. It's vital. The second imperative is the need to collaborate and innovate in order to stay relevant in a changing world. Otherwise, we'll fall behind. Everything's changing too fast if we're not constantly innovating. You can't innovate without collaborating. So that's vital too. So if I could put these in kind of a sequence, the first is to win in the workplace. The second is to win in the marketplace. We need to do both, but guess what? There is a sequence to it, especially today. If we're going to win in the marketplace because we can collaborate and innovate, that will only happen if we're first winning in the workplace by building this high trust culture that inspires so that we attract the best people. We're a talent magnet, and we also bring out the best in them and their talents. The seeds, they blossom, they grow. They want to become part of this. And when you differentiate yourself on that, especially in technology, where the technology is everyone has, you can differentiate around culture, around leadership. What an opportunity. So the sequence matters. Winning in the workplace will help you win in the marketplace. And the old ways that we've done this won't work today. You can't command and control your way to collaboration or innovation. And you can't command and control your way to a great culture, a high trust culture. We need to do it in a new way, trust and inspire. I talked this morning with Patricia Conley, the CEO of SMC Squared, who's here today. And their whole approach, they're an IT services firm, but they're really differentiating around this idea of winning in the workplace, of building a high trust team, a high trust culture that connects with the client, that fits with the client, cultural fit. And with the whole idea that if we do this well, we will attract and retain the people. And in an industry where IT services, where there's a lot of turnover and retention's difficult, maybe 60, 75% retention, they're achieving 90% retention. In some cases, with like Ecolabs, as an example, Ecolab, 100% retention. 100%. Because of the focus on a high trust team, a high trust culture, purpose, inspiration, as a differentiator, as a strategy. And so by starting first in the workplace and winning there, they also are able to truly collaborate and partner and innovate and stay relevant. Inside out. Win in the workplace helps us win in the marketplace. We need to do both, but the sequence matters. And so I'll be focusing heavily on how we need a new kind of leadership to achieve these imperatives. Here's the thing, that the old model is not relevant for the new world. We all kind of know that. Command and control is increasingly irrelevant by the day. And yet, many of us are still kind of stuck in it because of the trappings of it and the mindsets that it's in our language. So, if command and control doesn't work, what does? And I'm trying to name it because we all kind of know command and control has passed its expiration date, right? So, what does work? Trust and inspire is what I'm calling it, in juxtaposition to command and control. So, what is trust and inspire? Well, let me give a little contrast. I think the best way to describe something is by contrast. So if we look at command and control, kind of the historical way to lead, and again, I want to acknowledge this. We've become a lot better at this, more advanced, more sophisticated, the enlightened version of command and control. And let's contrast it to trust and inspire. Well, command and control, in that model, you manage people and things. Trust and inspire, you manage things and you lead people. See, the danger comes when we start to manage people as if they were things. And go for efficiency with people. No, be efficient with things. Be effective with people. Manage things. Lead people. If you manage people like things, you'll end up with no people. And a lot of things. So management is great. We need great management of technology, of resources, of inventories, of strategies. Manage things. Lead people. Command and control, you'll get compliance. People will follow the rules. That's a good thing. Trust and inspire, a higher level. You'll get commitment, where people do the right thing, which includes compliance, but so much more. Command and control is very transactional. Trust and inspire is transformational for every person, every relationship, for a team, for a culture, for a partnership. Command and control, you can achieve coordination among groups or silos. It's a good thing, but you're leaving a lot of value on the table. Trust and inspire, you can achieve, as Hunter talked about it, collaboration. Much better among teams, interconnected, flexible teams. Command and control, it's good for the status quo and for incremental improvement, but that's not our world today. Trust and inspire. This is a way to navigate change and innovation and disruption. Command and control, you'll achieve association. A good thing, trust and inspire. You can achieve real belonging and inclusion where our world is going. Command and control is the machinist mindset. I'm a machinist, mechanical. Trust and inspire. I'm a gardener. It's organic. Command and control, by definition, it's about control. Or I'm trying to contain people, control them, contain them. No one says that. But it's what the systems and structures and processes do, and sometimes our style itself. Trust and inspire is about releasing and unleashing and seeing the potential and unleashing it. Command and control is about motivation. It's external, extrinsic, carrot and stick. You know, does the motivation work? Sure. It motivates people to get more rewards. It's not a bad thing. It's just that trust and inspire is so much better. It's about inspiration. It's intrinsic. It's inside of people. And our job is to ignite that fire within. Because with inspiration, that can burn for years. Whereas motivation you have to constantly feed the hungry bear with more incentives, more rewards. Versus to inspire someone, to ignite that fire within. Here's what I believe. I think that for those that are operating with command and control today, in our new world, this new world of work, to operate with command and control is the equivalent of playing tennis with a golf club. Seriously, think about it. The tool you're using, or the style of leadership that you're manifesting, is not relevant for the game being played. It's a new world. We need a tennis racket to play tennis. And we need a style of leadership that is relevant for these two epic imperatives of winning in the workplace, winning in the marketplace, through a great culture, through collaboration and innovation. And command and control won't cut it anymore, as if it ever really fully did. So this is why this new way of leading, in a sense, is not new. It's just that we're not doing it. Look at this. See the evolution of this. You know, here's the progress we've made. You might start with kind of an authoritarian command and control. This is the height of the industrial age, right? And it's hierarchical and the like. The progress we've made is that we've advanced and moved along to a more enlightened command and control, where we bring more emotional intelligence to it, mission to it, even trustworthiness to it. And it's better. It's improved. We bring strengths, other things. But still our paradigm of how we view people and how we view leadership is still too much flowing out of the industrial age model that we still got to contain. We need not just incremental improvement, we need a sea change. We need to cross a chasm into trust and inspire. See, command and control is what I can do to you, the authoritarian command and control. Operates on fear. Trust, enlightened command and control, what I can do for you, operates on transactional fairness. Trust and inspire, what I can do with you, operates on inspiration. Far better approach. Now you might say, Stephen, we know this. We do. But to know and not to do is not to know. Look at the data. For all our progress, we have not shifted the paradigm. Here's what the data shows. About 30% are still in authoritarian command and control. This is of organizations, the predominant leadership style. About 62% have moved to enlightened command and control, far better, so we have made progress. But only about 8% have really moved into trust and inspire, a self-governance approach. Now that will vary for different organizations, even different industries, but for all our progress, we still haven't shifted the paradigm. So 9 out of 10 are still in some form of command and control. So to know and not to do is not to know. It's about doing. It's about making this shift. That's where we got to go. So let me give you some examples of this. Hunter brought this up with me in a session we had earlier in New York. Here's a great illustration of trust and inspire, how a leadership style unleashed, revitalized an organization. This is Satya Nadella, Microsoft. And when he came in, if you go back to when he took over, 2014, Microsoft kind of was fading a bit. They're still huge, obviously, with their market share and everything, but they were fading. They were not the cool place to work anymore. They were losing people left and right. And so retention was a difficulty. They also weren't collaborating. They weren't innovating. There was a cartoonist in Seattle that did a cartoon of the Microsoft culture that had people within the same company in a pyramid pointing guns at each other. And the premise was the only way to get ahead is to compete and even take down your colleague within the firm. So it was not collaborative and not innovative, and they were falling behind. Now again, they weren't completely broken. They still had a lot of great benefits, but their style was getting in the way of their capabilities. In comes Satya Nadella with a leadership style that is absolutely trust and inspire. He modeled, he trusted, he inspired in a whole variety of ways. He started with having a growth mindset, not only for yourself, but for others, so you can see their potential. To bring purpose into it, bring caring. They call it manage, coach, care, which is really model, trust, inspire. Long story short, today they're winning in the workplace. They have a high trust culture that inspires, and it's a cool place to work again. And you see it with their retention. They're also winning in the marketplace because they're collaborating and innovating in new and different ways. And they become a cloud powerhouse. And the economic performance is phenomenal as well. They went from $36 a share to $314. So it's been validated. Here's another one, Cheryl Batchelder, former CEO of Popeyes. So completely different business, fast food, franchise. And when she took over, they were kind of broken. They'd had 4 CEOs in 7 years. She comes in, she was advised by many, don't take this job. She comes in and it was a culture that was devoid of trust. There was acrimony between franchisees and the home office. She comes in with a style of leadership. Trust and inspire. She modeled, she trusted, she inspired. Again, long story made short, they began to win in the workplace and they built a great culture, including a partnership relationship with franchisees where they trusted each other, and they did not before. They began to win in the marketplace with collaboration and innovation, became far better at what they were doing and with their offerings. And again, they had also the great financial performance, 11 to 79, their stock price doubled their market share. Unleashed the organization, the talent, the people through leadership style that was bottling it up, containing it. Eric Yuan is a friend of mine and of Hunter's, extraordinary leader. He was rated by Glassdoor, the anonymous surveys from your own people. He had a 99% approval rating from Glassdoor. Has it to this day. I couldn't get a 50% approval rating from my own kids. So that's pretty phenomenal. Well, he says, speed is the primary weapon we have, but without trust, there's no speed. With trust, we move fast. That's why trust is everything. His whole thing is trust. Trust. So powerful. There's examples, there's models of trust-inspired leaders who unleash their organizations, unleash their capabilities, their talents. I mentioned Patricia. She's one right here that's doing this very same thing. You talk about manage things, lead people. She said, look, technological advancements move us faster into a spiral of change, automation, innovation. However, we are people first. We are living human beings with a never-ending desire to be heard, loved, and respected. Let's not lose sight of these fundamental needs as we build for better, faster, stronger technology solutions. So it's not either or, it's and, but there's a sequence. People first. And we manage things, but we lead people. She shared with me, I don't want to embarrass her, but about Samya, who's on one of these posters out here, just that she saw in her an extraordinary talent and greatness. She saw it. She communicated it to her. She developed that, gave her opportunities, and unleashed it. That's a trust and inspire leader. They see the potential. They communicate the potential. They develop it. They unleash it. This is the kind of leadership that's needed today. We can do this. So here's what I'd like to do. I'm going to show you a little fun video of a trust and inspire leader in my life. I want you to be thinking about it in your life, okay, while you watch this video. So here's what I want you to think about. I'll come back to that. I want you to think about who trusted and inspired you. I want you to think about a person in your life, someone who believed in you, who showed confidence in you, who took a chance on you. A person who trusted and inspired you. Could be a family member, parent, aunt, uncle, grandparent, friend, neighbor, coach, colleague, peer, boss, anyone. But someone who believed in you maybe more than you even believed in yourself. Who saw something in you. Kind of like Patricia did with Samya. And helped you come to see it in yourself and what that did to you. Be thinking about that as you watch this video, because such a person for me was my father. From when I was a young little boy. I'm going to show you his famous story from 7 Habits, Green and Clean. Some of you familiar with that? Well, I'm the green and clean kid. And I came here to give you my side of it. No, what I'm going to show you is, this is a trust and inspire leader who modeled, who trusted, who inspired with me as a 7-year-old boy. And watch this process. This is a fun video we created. It's from a speech my father gave 28 years ago, where he gave a speech, and we took the speech and then we did a reenactment and filmed it as if we were there when he did Green and Clean with me 52 years ago. And so it's kind of a reenactment, but it's fun using his live footage. We go back and forth. But watch the process of setting up an agreement. So, because the whole idea is that there's still a lot of control in trust and inspire. It's not just abdicate and abandon. No, it's trust and inspire with an agreement, with expectations, with accountability. And yet, it inspired me. Now, there's a little risk in showing this video because I don't look so good in it, especially up front. But I did come through at the end. So let's go ahead and run it. And I'm just trying to show you the power of a trust and inspire leader for us personally. So I want to apply this both in the workplace, but also in our personal family lives. Let's take a look.
My little son agreed in a family meeting to take care of the yard.
I will, Dad.
Son, your job is green and clean. Let me show you what green looks like, son. Let's go over to our neighbor's house. That's the color we're after, son. Clean means, let's clean up half of it. Now notice that compared to that. That's green and clean, son. Your job is green and clean. Now, son, how you do that is up to you. I'd tell you how I do it if you want.
How'd you do it, Dad?
I turn on the sprinklers. But you may want to use buckets or hose or spit all day long. All we care about is what, son?
Green and clean.
What's green look like? Good. What's clean? Good. It's your job, son. Guess who your boss is, son?
Who?
You boss yourself. Guess who your helper is?
Who?
I am. You boss me.
I do?
If I ever have any time you need help, you just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And guess who judges you, son? That's right, you judge yourself. How do you think you judge yourself, son?
Green and clean.
What's green now? What's clean now? Good. Is that a deal, son? You think about it for a day or two. Saturday. How do you feel, son?
I'll do it.
Do what?
Green and clean.
How?
It's up to me.
Who's your boss?
I boss myself.
Who judges you?
I judge myself.
How do you judge yourself?
Green and clean.
What's green? Good. Clean? Good. Who's your helper?
You are if you have time.
What if I don't have time?
I gotta do green and clean.
Is that a deal, son?
Deal.
Deal was made. You did nothing. Nothing all that Saturday. All that Sunday. Monday. It's Tuesday morning. Going to work. Hot. Summer day. Burning up. Yellowing. Neighbor's yard. Green and clean. Manicured. Garbage strewn right down the side lawn from the Saturday night barbecue. Falling out the bottom of the sack. 3 feet from my car. I could rationalize a little away Saturday and Sunday. But Monday, this is inexcusable. I was ready to move to win-lose. Now, son, you get out there, you get over here, or I'm telling, but the moment you do, you kill the goose. You kill effectiveness. You go for efficiency. Yeah, he'll clean that up. And what happens tomorrow when you're not there? Bite your tongue. Reaffirm your purpose. Raise boys, not grass. I'll see what it looks like tonight. Could hardly wait to get home. Driving, going around the corner, there where my yard was. Tuesday afternoon, more cluttered, more yellow than ever. My son across the street, playing ball. I was burning. We'd agree that we'd walk around the yard twice a week, and he'd show me how it's going. Hi, son. How you doing?
Just fine, Dad.
I was faking it totally. How's it going in the yard, son?
Just fine, Dad.
I bit my tongue. After dinner, why don't we walk around? You can show me how it's going. Before we got to the door, you could see his lip. By the time we got out to the front yard, just open bawling.
So hard.
I mean, what was hard? He hadn't done one single thing. I'll tell you what hard is moving up the level of initiative. You cannot hold people responsible for results if you supervise their methods. Anything you want me to do to help, son?
Would ya?
What was our agreement?
So you'd help me if you had time.
I've got time.
You do? I'll be right back.
Ran in the house, came out with 2 sacks. He handed me one, he took one. That's when he signed the win-win agreement. And he only asked for help a couple more times that entire summer. It's his job. It takes time to set up the agreement and to reaffirm it. The tendency is to backslide on it when you see mistakes. Keep believing in the people, holding them accountable in the way agreed.
All right, I came through in the end. All right. Now here's the thing. For years, my father would tell that story and talk about how this is a win-win performance agreement and stewardship delegation, and it was all those things, but I was a 7-year-old boy. I didn't know what those terms meant. But here's what I knew as a 7-year-old. It was very simple. I felt trusted. I felt my father trusted me, and I didn't want to let him down. I was too young to be worried about money or status or allowance or anything, but I didn't want to let my dad down. And I rose to the occasion. I felt inspired. I developed capabilities I didn't know I had. And as a 7-year-old with a big yard, I took care of it, and it was green, and it was clean. And it was through a process of trust and inspire. He easily could have gone into command and control and just taken it back from me or dictated, directed. Instead, he stayed with it, and it worked. My point is this. If building such an agreement through trust-inspired leadership can work with a 7-year-old, it can probably work with a 27-year-old or a 47-year-old or a 67-year-old, with any of us. This is a better way to lead. It's always been. We just become more aware of it today, the need with all these changes. So I think it's really helpful to think about trust and inspire leaders in our lives, what that does to us, because what if we could be that kind of person for somebody else? So back to what I asked you, to think of someone in your life who you would describe as a trust and inspire leader for you. Could I do something here so we can learn a little bit from each other? Could you just get in 2s or 3s? Not the whole table because we don't have time, but just 2s or 3s at your table. Maybe you'd be willing to share who was such a leader in your life, what that did to you. You won't have time. I'm only going to give you 3 minutes. So, and but I hope this just stirs what's inside of you. And then you can maybe share the story later after where you go in depth. But who trusted and inspired you? Go ahead and get in small groups and share that. All right, friends. Could you come back together if we could? And I apologize. I know I cut many of you off in the middle of something that you really want to share. So I encourage you, share it. Find the time to tell that story. I just wanted to get you thinking this way because we've all experienced this. We're in a world of command and control, and yet we've all probably experienced trust and inspire. A leader somewhere. What did that do to you? I bet you didn't need to be managed, did you? Brought out the best in you, and you wanted to prove it justified. This is the kind of leadership that's needed today. If someone was that way for you, could you be that way for someone else? What would that do to them? That's the idea. Now let me just acknowledge this, that sometimes I talk about this, and I'm saying what Trust and Inspire is a way of leading that sees, communicates, develops, and unleashes the inherent greatness inside of people. Now, for a critic, they might say, well, either you're abandoning them. No, that's the opposite of command and control is not trust and inspire. The opposite of command and control is abdicate and abandon. No leadership. Trust and inspire is a third alternative. Well, some people might say, the critics, well, this is too soft. Not going to work in today's world. But I want to make the point, trust and inspire is not weak, soft, lacking in courage. It's not a lack of control either. There's actually more control in a high trust culture than there is in a rules-based culture. It's not a lack of structure. You can have the appropriate structure and systems. It's not a lack of vision or direction. You can still be visionary. It's not a lack of expectations and accountability. No. Green and clean. Walk around twice a week. I'm accountable against that standard. It's just a different way of approaching it. You can be authoritative without being authoritarian. You can be decisive without being autocratic. You can be compelling without being compulsory. You can be visionary without being exclusive. You can be demanding without being overbearing. You can be detail-oriented without being distrusting. And you can be in charge and have control without being controlling. So this is not soft. This is a better way to lead in our new world today. And it's relevant for our times. So that brings me to how do we then cross the chasm, become trust and inspire? It starts with our paradigm, our fundamental belief of how we view people, how we view leadership. And until we shift the paradigm, the behavior won't follow. And so the fastest way to change your behavior is change your paradigm, the way you see the world, your mental map of how I view people, how I view leadership. I'm going to just briefly share the fundamental beliefs of a trust and inspire leader. On this next piece, I'm going to go really fast because you're getting the book. You can go much deeper into this if this interests you. But I want to show you a process of how we become trust and inspire leaders so that I'm not just telling you we need to shift to something and not describing what that something is. We can get there. It starts with the paradigm. So what are the fundamental beliefs of a trust and inspire leader? Well, here are some of them. I start with this belief. I believe that people have greatness inside of them. I have a growth mindset, not just for myself, but for others. So my job as a leader then is to unleash their potential, not to try to contain them or control them. When there's greatness inside, that's what we're trying to do. The seeds are there. The life is in the seed. The power is in the seed. Let's let it grow. Unleash it. I believe that people are whole people, meaning body, heart, mind, spirit. They're a whole person, not just economic beings. So if that's the case, my job as a leader is to inspire, not merely motivate. If people were just economic beings, motivation's enough. Reward, carrot, and stick. But they're human beings, as Patricia said. People. And they have a heart. And you can buy people's backs and hands, but they volunteer their hearts and minds. And they choose to give it. There's so much there, so they want to be inspired, not motivated. And by the way, there's overwhelming data from Bain and Company. Inspiration is the next frontier of engagement. It's another level of how people perform when they're inspired. I believe that there is enough for everyone. That's an abundance mentality. There's enough credit, enough trust, enough respect, enough creativity and innovation and commitment and passion and energy and joy. So my job as a leader is to elevate caring above competing. See, if there's not enough, if there's a scarcity mentality, then you got to compete inside the company. But if there's an abundance mentality, then there's enough for everyone, and I can compete on the outside, collaborate on the inside. So I elevate caring above competing. Scarcity might be good economic theory, but it's lousy leadership theory. I believe that leadership is stewardship. It's not about your position and your rights. It's about your influence and your responsibilities. So, if that's the belief, then my job as a leader is to put service above self-interest. And in doing so, self-interest will take care of itself. When I serve, seek to bless, not to impress. I believe that enduring influence is created from the inside out. Inside out. If I buy that, then my job as a leader is to go first. Someone needs to go first. Leaders go first. I model it. I lead out with it. Look at these beliefs. They're foundational. Again, this is in your book. But I want you to get started, if you don't mind, because when we look at the beliefs on the left, these beliefs, most of us probably say, I buy that. And yet, our leadership style is often getting in the way of our intent. Our actions on the right don't always follow our belief on the left. And so, I ask this question, in what situations or relationships does your style get in the way of your intent? Where maybe you're not acting in the way that you fully believe because of the pressure, the stress, quarterly earnings, what have you, and the need to just, take charge and such, and move to command and control. So I'm going to invite you. I want to make this, I don't want to just give you a framework. I want to challenge yourself, look in the mirror. Because ultimately, if you buy the premise that leadership is inside out, enduring influence is inside out, that means we look in the mirror, we start with ourselves. Would each of you choose one of these to work on? From the 5, and they come in the pairs, the 2 halves. Pick one you'd like to get better at. Where maybe you have the belief, but the corresponding action belief is not matched quite with it as much as you want it to be. But I invite you to pick one that if you could work on and get better at, it will help you become more of a trust and inspire leader, because your paradigm will be a more relevant, complete, accurate view of how you view people and how you view leadership, okay? Pick one. I'm going to have you do one more thing of where we'll pick another thing to work on so that you come out of this session with a personal leadership action plan, if you will. So pick one of these. And again, you'll find this in your book, and everyone's getting a book. Now, one last piece. What do we do then to become trust and inspire? If we start with the paradigm, the beliefs, what are the actions, the stewardships, I call them, that we do? If leadership is stewardship, what are the stewardships? Again, stewardship is implicit responsibilities that come with leadership. It's inherent. Stewardship is a job with a trust. Well, there are 3 stewardships to move from command and control to trust and inspire. 3 jobs with a trust that we have as leaders. They are modeling, trusting, and inspiring. We model, we trust, we inspire. These are stewardships that come with leadership. To model, to trust, to inspire. Modeling is who we are. Trusting is how we lead. Inspiring is connecting to why, to purpose, to why it matters. Let me just briefly describe these, but I want you to be thinking about it because I want you to pick one of these to work on and get better at as we walk out of today to become more trust and inspire. Modeling who we are. So this is our credibility. It's our character and our competence. It starts with that. We're all modeling. The question is, what are we modeling? We're all a model. I'll never forget, think about it with kids. They don't always follow what we say, but they tend to emulate what we do. I was at a basketball game one time, really invested in the game, and thought the referees were biased against my team. And, missing call after call. And I remember one time I standing up and then just yelling at the ref, you missed that, come on, what's wrong with you, type of thing, yelling and pointing, only to look right next to me, my 4-year-old son is standing up with the same gesture, yelling and pointing, saying the same things to me, to the ref, as I was. I looked around and I said, you know what? I said to my wife, this is not my best modeling moment. We all fall short, but we're all modeling. The question is, what are we modeling? A lot of things to model. I would just say generally, you want to model the behavior that you're wanting and expecting from each other. You model it if you want it. We want to model the values that we have in our firm, in our company. We model, we go first. There's 3, I call these behavioral virtue pairings that beautifully work together. Humility and courage. We need to model humility and courage today. It's a paradoxical combination. We need to model authenticity and vulnerability. Hunter's talked about this. Lead with authenticity. Also be vulnerable. We need to model empathy and performance. That's a very interesting combination. But the more empathic we are up front, the more we can help people perform because we understand their context, their situation. We still demand and need performance. We just have context for it and empathy and understanding. I want to highlight for just a moment authenticity and vulnerability because that's a big part of this summit, is being authentic. It matters. Authenticity means we are who we say we are. We're real. Vulnerability means we let people see into us how real we are. I love the term intimacy. Intimacy, break it down this way. Into me, see. That's being vulnerable. I let people see into me. And leaders that do that will build trust. Can I just share this? That I heard from Tony Lang, who's search firm, a headhunter, executive recruiter, the highest levels for technology, for your space. And he says when he's finding candidates and placing them, that he'll ask them about their strengths, their weaknesses, and the like. And he says, look, if a leader comes in and they got a lot of ego and not a lot of humility, and if they don't show vulnerability, I don't advance them because they're not real. And people respond to real leaders. And being vulnerable is one aspect of that. Now look, you don't have to be vulnerable to the extreme where no one has confidence in you because you're so vulnerable, but it's just trying to become more real, authentic. Brene Brown says vulnerability is strength. It's our greatest measure of courage. It's not weak, it's strong. Again, we're flipping this. Here's 2 quick best practices to demonstrate vulnerability that are really powerful. The first is to declare your intent. So you give the why behind the what. Often we give the what, we often don't give the why. Give the why. Team, here's what we're trying to do, here's why. Here's our agenda. It's not a hidden agenda, it's an open agenda. I'm transparent. There's nothing to hide. I declare my intent. You might even go further. Declare yourself. Here's who I am. Here's how I like to lead. I like to build relationships. I like to get results, but build a relationship of trust so we can get it going forward. Doug Conant, former CEO of Campbell's Soup Company, turned around Campbell's Soup. They went from worst in engagement to best in the world in engagement. He said the number 1 practice that did it was declaring yourself. He would model it. Here's who I am. Build this relationship of trust with people fast by being vulnerable. And then people tended to reciprocate. But he was a real authentic leader, and he built trust fast, and they moved the needle on everything else. So declare your intent, declare yourself is a great way to model vulnerability. Here's the main point. Go first. Someone needs to go first. Leaders go first. Modeling. Let me just briefly mention trusting. This is how we lead. I want to do a little exercise with you for just 1 minute. Look at this statement. You could have 2 trustworthy people working together and no trust between them, even though they're both trustworthy. 2 trustworthy people working together, no trust between them. Why might that be so? You got 60 seconds with your partner. 60 seconds. Why might this be so? 2 trustworthy people, no trust between them, even though they're both trustworthy. You got it. You got it.
Hey, Stephen, they asked me to say it again. Oh.
All right. Okay, so two trustworthy people working together, no trust between them. There's many, many reasons why that may be so. Maybe someone's new, the context, the situation. But Pat, why?
Well, both are capable of receiving trust, but neither is necessarily giving trust to the other.
That's right. If neither person is willing to extend trust to the other. Think about it. We got to think about trust. Let's break it down. You want to have trust? Yes, we need to be trustworthy. That's our character, our competence, our credibility. We earn that. Trust is earned. But we also have to be trusting. Trust is given. And too many times we're only focusing on the first half of the equation, not the second half. As leaders, we not only have to be trustworthy, but trusting. It is a stewardship we have to extend trust to our people. Not blindly. I'm not asking you to blindly trust anyone and everyone. Always, I call it smart trust with context. You assess the situation, the risk, the credibility of the people involved. You use good judgment, but you find the ways to increasingly extend more trust to people and let them rise to the occasion and perform better. Because that's what happens. Here's how you do trust smartly. You focus on clarifying expectations, like my dad did with me, green and clean. You focus on practicing accountability. Let's walk around once a week or twice a week, and you tell me how it's going in the yard against the standard of green and clean. He built an agreement with the expectations and accountability. There's great control in that, but also people then feel inspired. They rise to the occasion, they perform better, they'll do all these things, and guess what? You'll not only achieve the task, you'll grow the people. And my dad said, my purpose is raise boys, not grass. And yet, guess what? He had a great grass. The lawn was green and clean. And I grew as a boy. So that's the idea. Now look, Abella is going to talk later about inclusion. It starts with trust. There's a lot of things we've got to do, but it starts with trust. Differences are our strengths when people trust each other. Differences are often viewed suspiciously, and in some cases even divisively, when people don't trust each other. So you want to run with our differences as our greatest source of strength, start with trust. Perhaps our strongest unconscious bias is who we decide to trust or not. We've got to become more trusting. Again, I'm not saying blindly, in a smart way. Here's what happens. It's hard. It's hard. We overestimate how much trusting we do by about 3 times. Here's 80,000 feedback instruments. How I rated myself, that I always trust people. That's a high standard, always. 44%, here's what our people say. 15. 1/3 as much as we thought. They experience it differently. But when you trust, here's what's going to happen. People will rise to the occasion and they will perform better. They will also develop their capabilities. You'll grow the people, and they'll reciprocate and give the trust back to you. It's powerful. Here's a fun example of the power of trusting, how people rise to the occasion and perform better. Jim Henson, the creator of the Muppets, was going to create a movie at the time, the first Muppet movie. So he hires Paul Williams, the great composer, to help him write the songs. And here's Paul Williams telling the story of working with Jim Henson. So Paul Williams said this. He said, Jim had to be the easiest and most trusting person I ever had the opportunity to work with. When we met for the first time as a team in my den to discuss the basic outline of the story, I was given a gift I will always treasure. Walking Jim to his car, I told him I'd keep him in the loop as Kenny and I wrote the songs for the film. He responded with, oh, that's all right, Paul. I'll hear them in the studio when we record them. I'm sure they'll be terrific. Never in decades of writing songs for a living have I encountered such trust, being given so much freedom. Jim gave us his trust, and we gave him the rainbow connection. Oops. There's a power to this. Okay. Sorry, I skipped through that, but I had a punctuation to this that somehow skipped over. Oh, the song's not working. I had the little lyric from the song. I don't dare sing it because I sound worse than Kermit. Oh, there we go. Oh, we heard the tail end. All right. Last point, inspiring. And you might say, well, gosh, inspiring is for the charismatic. Well, here's the thing. First of all, inspiring others is the new competitive advantage. This is where leadership is going, towards inspiration. You know, Wayne Gretzky said what made him good in hockey was he skated to where the puck is going to be, not to where it is. The puck in leadership is going towards inspiration. It's a new competitive advantage for a culture. It's exactly what you're doing, Patricia. It's building this kind of culture. Inspiring others is a learnable skill. It's not just for the charismatic. Everyone can inspire. We too often equated charisma and inspiration. So yes, Hunter can inspire because he's charismatic. But why Hunter really inspires is because he's a person of great character and competence who creates value and connects people and adds value to everyone. That inspires, and he cares. Everyone can inspire. How do you inspire? You connect with people, and you connect people to purpose, to meaning, to contribution, at every level, starting with ourselves, our relationships, our teams. So connect with people, with yourself. You become inspired yourself. Find your why. What makes you tick? What's your why? What's your purpose? When you're inspired, you can help others become inspired. Like the airline metaphor, you know, don't put your own mask on first before helping others. Become inspired so you can help others become inspired. Find your why so you can help others find theirs. I love how Angela Duckworth put it. She said, you can go from job to career to calling, all without changing your occupation when you find your why, your purpose. So we start with ourselves, find our why, but then at the relationship level, it's all about caring, that we care. And it's underrated by a factor of 100. And at the team level, it's about belonging. Indra Nui, great illustration of this, she actually wrote over 400 letters to the parents of her executives, thanking them for the gift of their child to PepsiCo, to her team. And demonstrated a care and a sense of belonging that was phenomenal, not only for the executive, but for their families, for their parents. And everyone, here's the expression, we know it. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So this is really powerful. That will inspire you. Caring will inspire people. But the other thing that will inspire is connecting to purpose, to meaning, to contribution, to why it matters. And I believe this, that you can create and embed purpose, meaning, and contribution into almost any role, into almost any organization. And so it doesn't just have to be for organizations that are curing cancer. You can do it in almost every organization, in almost every role. You just have to be intentional. And you overlap purpose, you co-purpose, individual organizational purpose. And everyone wants purpose. Kathleen Hogan's a friend of mine, and she said, look, a lot is written about how millennials want purpose. What I've kind of learned is that everybody wants purpose. It's the secret sauce. And then that will inspire. So inspiring others is a learnable skill. It is a stewardship we have as leaders, so let's get good at this. So look at those three stewardships. You model, you trust, you inspire. Could you pick one to work on? Doesn't mean you're going to ignore the other three, but it's hard to do everything at once. I really would like you to say, gosh, so you think about your leadership. Maybe you say, I'm pretty good at modeling and trusting. I want to work on inspiring. Or I'm good at modeling and inspiring, but I have a hard time letting go. I'll work on trusting. Or I trust people. I feel like I'm inspiring, but I don't know if I always model. You pick one. Can I have you do this? 2 minutes. Would you share with your learning partner which one you're picking? And why? I want to get you into action, not just into theory. And the fastest way I know is when you declare your intent, I'm going to work on this, that we're more likely to do it. Just 2 minutes, and then I have a concluding thought. 2 minutes with the partner. Which one of these are you going to work on? Why are you picking that one? All right, friends. So let us conclude. Here's 3 stewardships that will move us from command and control to trust and inspire. You've got one to work on. Add that to your fundamental belief and see those 2 things as your action plan walking at it today. If I could give you a 3rd thing to do, it would be maybe identify someone who you would like to trust and inspire. Because if you can do it with one, you can do it with many. And become that person for them like someone was for you. Here's an example of this in action of a team, Eric Weinmeier. Here's how he describes himself. He says, I'm the blind guy who climbed Everest. Watch this ascent, greatest ascent in history, most success. They were a trust and inspired team. They modeled, they trusted, they inspired. They had a clear purpose, get Eric to the top. Take a look.
For a sighted person, climbing Mount Everest is one of the greatest physical challenges on the face of the earth. Ever since I went blind, it's been a dream in the back of my mind to climb the world's tallest peak. I knew that only 10% of the people who try Everest make it to the top, and for every 6 people who summit, I've heard 1 dies. As a blind person, I knew I could never get to the summit of Everest alone. And what would get me to the top wasn't necessarily technology. What would get me to the summit were the people that I surrounded myself with. After that, I forced myself to sit in front of my tent and envision myself and my team on the top, to actually bleed myself forward. There's a 12,000-foot drop on this side, a 9,000-foot drop on the other side. At that point, I don't think it really matters which side you fall off of. Sometimes you have to rise to the occasion right now. You got to be good and execute right now, every step of the way.
I see it. I can't believe it. Good job. You did it, man. We're on top of the world. You're on top of the world.
I don't think I'm very different from anyone else. I think everyone has a yearning for greatness inside them. That ability to reach out into uncertainty, in a sense, I guess, to climb blind.
Everyone has a yearning for greatness. They modeled, they trusted, they inspired. They were a trust-inspired team with trust-inspired leaders. This is the kind of leadership that's needed in a new world of work, in a time of the great resignation, in a time where we need to win in the workplace and win in the marketplace. Command and control is long past its expiration date. We need to move to trust and inspire. We can do this, we can get good at this. And with this, it will be a better kind of leadership, and we'll build a better kind of culture that will help us win with our people and in the marketplace. I'm so honored to be with you. Remember, we need more trust and more inspiration in our world, not less. And while it takes 2 or more people to have trust, it only takes 1 to start. And each of us can be that one. Thank you so much. What an honor to be with you. Thank you.
Stephen, great job. Great job.
Thank you.
Amazing, right? Great job. What a gift. What a blessing. Thanks so much, Stephen, for being here today, and hopefully you can stay through lunch.
I am, and I will, and I'm happy to sign books.
Great.
I have a brief meeting in the interlude, but I'll be back. But what an honor to be with you, Hunter, and with the HMG Strategy team. I'm really, really appreciative. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stephen. Thank you very much. Great.
For more information, please visit hmgstrategy.com and keep up to date by following us on our social media platforms. Thank you.